Hello there, this is CANWAN Kenan from Kenan Play, and today we're going to play part 3 of Burokku Girls, which means block girls or something like that. Alright, block means this kind of blocks, the cube, the Minecraft kind. Alright, let's go to part 3. Okay, so we are still escaping for very long. We need to go that way, just follow the path, and we should reach Keihei village before nightfall. Nodding to this, I followed in the direction that Asahi indicated, once again aware that I was holding an incredibly beautiful and exceptionally well-endowed specimen of feminine in my arms. Okay, Takashi. You know what? You don't really need to repeat this, in every single scenario. Then he's gonna repeat and say her boobs, her face, her figure. Oh my gosh. Doing my best to ignore the way. You see, they're gonna talk about the breast again. Asahi breast bounce in every step I took. I followed the path through the woods, constantly aware of the way the sun changed in the position in the sky. I wasn't sure what time it was in this world, but even if Burokku had the same hours of anything like that which Earth did, but honestly I hope that the warrior woman I carried was correct about us reaching her village before the light of the sun faded into the night. This was a strange world with none of the familiar things that I depend upon to get by on Earth. No street light, no flashlight, and the things much worse than a mugger in an alley. There was no doubt about it. This could and most likely would get a lot scarier when night fell, possibly given a greater strength to do even deeper darkness. I still don't know much about those ducklings or any of the rest of it. Why are they attacking if they're just evil for the sake of being evil or any of it? And as I marched upon the situation, I realized that remaining ignorant was not in my best interest. I needed to know how to survive in this world until Deck and Kenny figured out how to get me back where I belong. As I considered this, pausing just long enough to hope that this didn't happen until I got Asahi home to where she could get some help at least, I realized that we hadn't spoken about what was going on in her world. So, by the way, Asahi, what is this war about anyway? Huh? The ducklings, you say, the flow of the underworld was turning people and villagers to darkness. What is it all about anyway? And how did this all get started in the first place? Dark shadow crossed Asahi with this word. That's a very long story. It was clear that this was a very unpleasant subject from her perspective, but as much as I didn't want to weigh Asahi down with any further burdens, I still needed to know as much as I could, because that was the only way I saw myself being able to survive this world. Like you said earlier, it was a while to your village, so I think we have time for a long story. I looked upon Asahi's face and made it clear that she understood my point, but at the same time, it did nothing to make her less reluctant to discuss the events of this world to me. But even as I considered how to address this and make her more comfortable speaking with me, a powerful noise echoed through the air and caused me to pause in mid-step. A noise I immediately recognized, having heard it in many games I played and movies I watched. The sound of explosion. You don't really need to watch movie and games to know the sound of explosion, right? This path is very weird. It's like jagged. You have to walk like this, and 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 like this, It's not a straight path though. And I wasn't the only one who reacted to the sound. Oh no, the two words that's all Asahi said. The grief and despair that hung in the air in the wake of her words, they held an entire world of meaning. And when the second explosion sounded, her horror visibly increased. I forgot all about my fatigue and pain and instead focused on that sound. Whoa, she looks fierce now. And as I did, I took note of a second path that branched off the one we were presently on and seemed to go in the direction that the sound were coming from. Explosion meant two things in my mind. One, the most obvious, there was a danger somewhere close by. Two, more importantly, that people were in danger, something that Asahi's clear dismay immediately reinforced. And so, acting on sheer instinct, or perhaps a good sign of those of suicidal stupidity brought upon by a lifetime of being able to get out of a jam by quitting a game and going back to the main menu, I started running down the second path. right towards the sound of explosion. Wait, Takashi, don't. There's nothing we can do. I really should have stopped, and under most circumstances, I would have, but even as I was running, other sounds rode the winds, and sound of chaos and confusion, sounds such as screams and pleas for help, noise of conflict, cruelty, and laughter of hideous, ghostly triumph. I had no idea what could be done to help. After all, I had no powers or weapons, and Asahi was injured and nude save for my shirt and what little remains of her own outfit. But even as she cried out to me, tried to get me to get back the way I came, I kept moving on right up until I reached the edge of the woods and found myself on a cliff made of blocks and composed everything in this world. And it was right then I skidded a heart frozen with horror at the sight that awaited me down the valley below. Oh no. Whoa, this looked like a village, quite nice, burned, fire raging everywhere, a lot of amaterasu. I thought I had seen some pretty scary stuff in the past, but what I saw below me made it look like a trip to an amusement park by comparison. Down below me in the valley was a village made up of many blocks in this world, a village that would have otherwise looked pretty much like any other fantasy genre village that one could imagine. True, and there's many blocks too. Under normal circumstances, it would be willing to bet that it would have been every bit as tranquil and peaceful and even boring as you can imagine such as a village being. But this was far from normal circumstances. Surrounding a village on every side were more of ducklings I had seen before. They were swarming over everything in sight below, leaping about the tops of buildings, darting through the causeway that led through the village. But adding to the horror of this situation was that unlike the last time I seen them, there were now many innocent bystanders in close proximity to them. Innocent bystanders. Is this the innocent bystander? Oh no, this is the innocent bystander. So I guess those in black is the ducklings. Is the innocent bystander. This I don't think so. Dead person. Ducklings getting attacked by an innocent bystander. More ducklings. Ducklings casting spell on this building. This lady, another lady here. This lady, a friend of this lady. Maybe they are friends. Sisters maybe. Well, they were dressed in the same kind of simple clothing that I gathered to be the standard fare in this fantasy world. And they reacted to the ducklings with many different shades of horrific revulsion. Like they were an abomination, a twist, monstrous perversion of their own kind. And it was a horror that the people of the village ran from as best as they could, shrinking further and further back towards the center of the village, even as the duckling advanced, gleefully bleating and tormenting any villagers luckless enough to be caught by them. A lump of bile formed in my throat as I watched the ducklings carry out every evil that could be conceived by the human mind against the villagers, even as they corralled them in the center of the village. I watched savage beatings and acts of wanton beings carried out without trace of hesitation or compassion. And with every instance of sheer evil and malice and hate, the ducklings laughed in gloating triumph and malevolent merriment. And as the horror after horror piled before me, I found myself almost speechless. Oh, it was all I could say, and all I could get past the thick lump of despair that had filled my throat. All I could say, with my heart feeling in the face of sheer evil, I know. Staring slightly, I looked down at the warrior woman I still held in my arms. I saw Asahi gazing upon the village as well, tears welling in her gentle eyes as misery darkened her features. I've already seen this so many times. So many village taken good people turned, so they can change, villagers into ducklings or something like that. Swallowing loudly, gulping down the suffering that had been welled up in her own throat, Asahi looked pleadingly at me. Please, don't hate them. What they are doing is not their fault. They were turned. Wait, you said something about that happened before, and Asahi, what's going on here? Wait, are those ducklings? Why are they doing this? Why? My voice promptly gave out, for there were simply no words capable of conveying the sheer horror that I now felt. But as I struggled for words that I could say, Asahi issued a tired sigh and nodded. Alright, set me down, I'll explain. No! Explain! Set you down and explain. No, you should run! You should run now! Why are you explaining now? Oh, come on, man. For a moment, a part of me considered asking if perhaps it would be best if we should move away from the village first. Yes, you should move away from the village first, hello? But I insisted on giving voice to this sentiment, and I just did as requested, too numb to really do anything other than heed Asahi's words. No, you guys should run. Doesn't make sense, right? You guys are in like full view of the ducklings. And so I sat her down so that she was sitting next to me. Whoa, looking at this like they are like looking at some scenery or something like that, right? At which she reached up and took off my shoulders so as to steady herself and remain in a seated position. Our world, Burokku, is divided into an overworld and an underworld by blocks that shape the overworld, make it what it is. The blocks were first created by our ancestor many ages ago, so as to make it simpler to craft this world into an ideal one, a world where we could all be happy and live in a place to meet our needs and took care of us. So wait, you mean this mountain is valley and all the rest of it are artificial? You mean man-made? Of course! You don't really think that nature alone would have shaped the blocks, do you? I didn't really know what to think. I mean, things have been happening too fast for me to really think about much of anything. Asahi gave a slight nod to this. The secret to moving the blocks was lost a very long time ago. But even so, the land gave us everything we needed. In return, we tended the land in relative harmony. But at this point, Asahi's expression hardened in a dangerous manner. But all that came to an end when the underworld found a way to push aside the blocks that kept them confined to the depths. The underworld, they live in caves, caverns beneath the blocks. In fact, according to legend, the underworld is where the blocks were first created, where our underworld was first planned and eventually overworld was first planned and eventually created. Okay, but then why are they doing this? Why are they? As I gestured down the village below, Asahi followed my outstretched hand, and her features fell in fresh sorrows. The ducklings aren't underworlders. They may have been transformed by the evil underworld have brought forth from the depth of the fiery world below, but once they were overworlders. They were people much like you and myself. It was a situation that was about as cliche as it came. A trick that I've seen more times than I cared to count in various monster movie or games. I always found it to be a plot twist that had been basically done to death. But as I looked at the all too real nightmare that was even now unfolding below, I saw nothing boring about it, or entertaining, or even other than abhorrent and sickening. So, what you say about village being turned, you mean the villagers as well? Asahi gave a tiny sniff before nodding. But what about the underworlders you told me about? If they were the ones who are turning your people into ducklings, then where are they? And how many are there? What? There are 3 of them. At least only 3 that we have seen. And as for where they are, they should be arriving any second now. Here, issuing a noise of confused I watched Asahi reach into what remains of her own clothing. A moment later, she pulled forth a crystal block that burned with its own inner light.